Hello and welcome to Unbox The Podcast, the podcast that helps you live your best life. I'm your host, Sahar Huneidi-Palmer. Unbox Coffee Break started in the lockdown of 2020. What developed was a true sense of community, virtual community, and I found a new way to support my friends, followers, and those who needed help. Hello everyone and welcome to Unbox Coffee Break. I hope you had a good weekend. Excited for the coming few days ahead. I want to thank you for your support, continuous support. Last week, we spoke about looking after the elderly. This week, we're going to talk about children. What do we do when children leave the nest? How do you cope? If you found the magic trick, let me know. Send a message. When I start showing you the slides, I just put a few points. I will turn the comments off. We are also live on Facebook, Twitter, and something else, YouTube. So make sure you let your friends know. So what do we do when children leave the nest? The past week, there has been a lot of graduation. I've watched the graduation of the children of many of my followers. So different stages in life, different stages in school. And that made me really think of what happens when they leave the nest. Raising a child, starting a family probably takes a very long time. 20 years, 25, you are a parent on hold, on duty all the time. There isn't really a break. It does take a lot of effort and it's mindful process so that you can create or let go of these individuals, unleash them into the world so they can impact others and create a better future for themselves. We spoke a little bit about that last time. Mind you, it was in Arabic. But then how do you cope? How do you find the balance? How do you continue living your life? Especially probably for women, for mothers at home. It's a huge, big change. And I actually wanted to say it's not a change, it's a transition. Because you are not shifting a piece of furniture around. It's a huge transformation. And a transition is more about moving into a new cycle rather than you just carry the next morning as though things are the same. So what happens is that children are no longer children, they're young adults or adults. And yet many of us seem to continue living our lives, wanting to be needed. And mothers especially, because that is what I witnessed, a lot of mothers still live as though the children need them in the same way that they needed them, a few years ago or when they were younger. So this is like quite an important thing because you do have a life. You do have a purpose to continue. For maybe most of your life, it was looking after children. But your role continues to be as a leader or a role model. This is a tongue twister for me. A role model for these children. So it doesn't mean that you feel that you have no purpose or that you feel abandoned. Many parents do. Many mothers do. And I learned a lot from my mother because she was always doing something in her life. So as children, we kind of learned that by osmosis. That I don't know how she managed life, indoors, outdoors, attending and helping out with charities, but also carrying on with her hobbies. And that is something that we're going to talk about because although your children have left home, they probably started their own family, they can still learn from you as a parent, but you need to realize that your role now is different. So you haven't stopped being a parent, but it's a different role. You can continue to guide and steer kind of indirectly. You can still teach them quite a lot by living your life because in a way you're teaching them how they can live their life when they become adults. I also want to remind you that we are the only mammals, the only species that stays attached to its children. All the other animals don't. They kind of understand that when children are older, they need to get on with their life. I think it's quite an important thing for many of us to kind of begin to realize that no one is abandoning us. We are just living or starting a new stage in our life. And what do you do? How do you cope? So it's a big subject, but as we often do on Unbox, we try and simplify things so that we can get an idea across. And if I manage to make you affect a mental shift in how you see your life, then job is done. So let me know what you think of this. Now, in another coffee break, we spoke about fear and anxiety because many of my viewers have been texting and messaging saying how deeply absorbed they have become in their children's lives. And we kept texting back and forward. And as it turned out, these children are not children. They're over 30, they're over 35. And yet the mothers still feel so attached to the extent that one of them, insists on being really ill, although she's not really ill, because she wanted her daughter to stay with her. And the daughter is interrupting her life because she's got 4 children of her own. And the situation has become a little bit raw for everyone. So I think as parents, as elders, as mentors, our job is to inspire, to encourage, to continue to kind of help the children to individuate, but not in an impinging way, imposing way, making them feel guilty, because it's absolutely a terrible thing to live feeling guilty in life that you haven't done enough or that you should do enough for your parents. This is particularly a problem in the Middle East, maybe not so much in the West, although I have witnessed it. But the difference is maybe less of an emotional blackmail. So when you trust that they will be okay, when you trust that their life will continue without you, but you're there for them in the background, your brain releases oxytocin. So it makes you happier. So you become less worried. You become more positive. And remember the cycle of fear. When you are afraid, when you don't trust, when you feel that you've been abandoned, your children don't need you, you probably feel that you've lost the meaning of your life. There's no purpose, no reason to continue, and so on. Then the brain releases cortisol, which makes it a very painful experience. But the more pain you generate, you tend to get stuck and you avoid trust, because then it becomes very hard to switch the other way around. So just to remind you very quickly, Unbox is about keeping alignment, and you do that through the 4 dimensions of change: Bima, body, emotions, mind, and accountability. And I would like to hold the parents tonight accountable for continuing to live their life, and through that, they will inspire their children. It is not only about inspiration, but it's also about when you hold your own space, it becomes more attractive. There's no guilt. Children will want to come and see you, will want to come and visit you, but not out of guilt or emotional blackmail, which is really important because the latter is kind of like a repellent. Nobody wants to feel guilty. But if you exude that I'm okay, I'm living my life, I'm happy, that is very attractive energy, which makes, the right moments, or it helps you to create the right moments. But also it allows children to feel, oh, that's interesting. I want to visit parents. I want to be with parents. So you have to give them the space so that they can grow and they can focus on their own life. This is really important. They need to build a household that is very connected. They can't do that when they feel schizophrenic between feeling guilty, looking after parents. I'm talking about, when they just leave the nest and having their own life. So think about that. It's really important that you continue to live and that you allow them to continue to live and to carry on, because then the whole thing is in balance and no one feels abandoned or impinged upon. So please remember that you have a life to live. Just because you are a parent or you defined your identity as a parent, it doesn't mean that you stop being one if they left. I find this like a really significant point because many parents, especially mothers, they're not mothers anymore. So what do they do with themselves, And it kind of gets stir crazy to stay at home, not knowing what to do, because before the children were so demanding and your whole day evolved around them. So what do you do with your day now? So this is really important. And I'll give you a few suggestions, which is what I've done with my mom. My mom lived for about 20 years or so on her own after my father has passed away. And through her, we learned a lot about how to carry on with life. And it's really interesting and it's really inspiring, because when she needed us, one time the house burnt down. She went out for a visit and she came back at night and the whole house has burnt. It was all smoke because of an electrical charge. On the next flight, my brother was there. He lived in another country. I was in another country. My sister was yet in another country. But you can keep the contact. You can encourage the children to keep contact. Again, not out of guilt, but out of that deep connection and love that you have. So it's very important how you raise them so that you can find that love and support when they grow older. I want to also mention one of my relatives, before he died, long time before he died, He distributed his fortune among his children, which was a really nice thing to do, equally. Many of us don't think about that, and it's quite common actually not to give the children anything, to kind of keep them suspended and keep them in line, because I've heard this from parents that, we're not going to do that because then they'll never ask about us and they will never come around. Again, for me, that is unnecessary guilt. And if they're going to love you and come and ask after you because of the money, I'm really sorry, then you have to look at things all over again. So let the children live their life as you must live your life. And believe you me, when they need you, they will come to you. Especially if you've had a long-standing relationship with them throughout their lives, okay? So you have to think, when you grow old, how are you going to treat your children now so that you have them as support and as friends for when you grow older. So when they need you, even if they don't need you, they still love you. And when they need you, they will come to you. So love does not equal, I keep them attached to me all the time. It's not true. It's not a fact. And again, we are the only mammals who do that. Do whatever you wanted to do, but didn't have time to do over the last few decades. So again, raising children does take a very long time. So you must have stopped your own hobbies. You must have stopped indulging in your own interests. So now would be really a good time to start this new transition, this new cycle in your life. I also would like to share with you an example of a client of mine who was fantastically depressed, very intelligent professor, very learned professor. And when we dug a little bit deeper, he was miserable because his 4 sons were not around him living in the same country. And I asked, I said, are your children happy? And he said, they're very, very happy. I said, why do you want them to be near you? And I kept probing to find out what it is. And he wanted it that way because a colleague of his had it that way. So how come this professor have his children around him and I don't? That seems to be a big thing, especially for people from the Middle East. I don't think that's a nice thing to kind of force their children to redirect their journey just to meet with yours. We really have to understand and respect their journey. Well, the journey of everyone in our life. So they have their life to live. We can support, guide, inspire, but not to make them kind of divert and join ours simply because we are their parents. Well, I'm glad this is striking a chord, so I'm getting a lot of hearts. I like that because I wasn't really sure if I can be this honest, talking about this, children's and parents. Another client was fantastically worried about her daughter. She also mentioned how horrible the husband is. And I kept probing, and the husband wasn't really horrible at all. He had a lot to deal with. The wife had an autoimmune disease. But to be fair enough, she wasn't doing all that she could do in order to improve herself. And you must be careful because sometimes when people are in this situation, that such a chronic disease can make you feel I'm special, I demand a lot of attention, and that could become an issue. So rather than doing your best, especially when parents get older, rather than doing your best to kind of move forward, look after your health, stay fit, have your own social life and so on, they kind of make the children feel really needy, which can happen also with the children. As I said, they make their parents feel really that they're really needy of their parents. And all of that is kind of like codependency. And it isn't a healthy way to live, to grow up or to grow old. So we must unbox all these issues and not leave them there to ferment and then get really moldy and then we suffer. So what can you do? I'll give you a few ideas. I know that with Mom, after she lost my father, she was really sad and really grieving. It took her about 2 years to come out of it, if not more. And then gradually, my sister, my brother and I kind of came up with ideas. But I pushed. I'm a little bit pushy, so I pushed. And we started a makeover in her house. It was terribly cold in winter and really warm in summer. So we changed the carpets into flooring, things like that. And she really liked that. It made her feel really comfortable. And minor changes, I'm not saying go out and spend, but I am saying sometimes you need to rearrange the household when the children leave the nest. You need to accommodate you, not keep the rooms and everything else as though it was a museum. I mean, what for? Now is the time to enjoy your life. And yes, of course, be prepared when, grandchildren come. Just today, I don't know what I was telling my niece, and I mentioned something like I want to do other things. I'm thinking about where am I going to live, retire? Am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I really want to get into other things. And she said, oh, hold on. I said, what? She said, hold on, auntie, wait for me, because you make a very good babysitter. And I'm like, what? You want me to stay around just to babysit? Which I really don't mind. I love children and I will babysit, but I'm not gonna wait until that happens and change my plans or change my life just because of that. I think it's very important that we look after ourselves so that the children learn how to look after themselves as well. So get a makeover. This could be looks, this could be fitness, this could be minor redecoration, this could be looking after the household, because there isn't time when you're raising a family to do all of these things. So there's a lot that can make you busy in your immediate environment. Create a memory scrapbook for each child. Look at the photographs. Now, digitally, we hardly print photographs. I don't know if you do. If you do, that's really great. But I'm guilty, and I really don't print enough pictures. But my late husband did, I must say. And it's such an amazing thing to do, because in such days and moments, you just pick up the album and you look at it and you remember the most beautiful memories. So you can create that for your children, and they can give it to their children. And I think that is a lovely thing to do, to keep the family or memories of the family. And that can keep you really, really busy. I've got boxes of photographs. God knows when I'm going to go through them. But if you're free and your children have left, that is something that you can start doing. Now, what you can also do is get to know your partner again. Can you imagine all these years and both of you have your focus on the children? Well, what about your relationship? What about strengthening, deepening your relationship? After all, that's the reason you got married, is to be together and to build a life together. So it's a fantastic thing when the children leave home, because you can get to know that, give your partner the attention. Many mothers focus on the children and, like the husband is on the side. Many husbands rely on mothers and on the wives to take care of the children and don't kind of get involved. Sometimes I take marketing assignments because I really miss that when I can. And one time I was working with a local company here, and the person responsible, the owner, was really, really worried about his son. I don't know what happened, some kind of poisoning or something. But anyway, the son, a little child, like 4 years, I think, was rushed into hospital. So I said, please, go to see your son. He said, no, that's my wife's job. And I'm like, what? Go, he's in hospital. So men, you have to extract yourself out of your life and also do some mothering chores, because it's important that you build that bridge with your children. Okay, time for a coffee sip. Let me know, leave a comment below. What is your coffee drink tonight? This is really coffee today. And it's getting cold. And the same is really true for moms as well. Parents, mothers, fathers can take the children on special, time to spend some time with them together, privately, separately. That's also another important thing. Even though they're busy, they're married with children, it doesn't mean that, the family has to come together all the time. It's very important that you stay in touch, that you keep contact by spending time individually. What do you do when your children are immigrating? A lot of people are changing countries now and moving about and immigrating because they're thinking about their own children. Do you run and follow them? Well, absolutely not. You wait until you are invited. You wait to be invited to visit. It is so important, if this is a transition for them, that you allow them to deal and to cope with their transition on their own. You can support from far. You can stay in touch. Nowadays, almost everyone I know, all the families are Zooming. They're meeting over Zoom and things like that. They're celebrating anniversaries, birthdays over Zoom. So technology can help. And if you happen to be a parent, at a good age, you're reasonably well, reasonably healthy, there is no reason to kind of stick to the children and move away. If you truly love them, give them the space to kind of mold their life the way that they want to. This is really important. Another thing you can do is think about what you want to leave them. You can start clearing the attic. You can start clearing the garage, whatever it is. We all collect things over the years and then we don't know what to do with them. I'm still decluttering, believe it or not, because all of my life, about 25 years in England, all the stuff came to Dubai. A lot of it is books and papers, and I'm still not done because I don't want people to worry about that when it's my turn, when I pass away or something. So I want to make it really easy for whoever is around with me at that time not to have such a big deal a big chore. It is important that, not to impinge on their life, to make it as less dramatic as it can be. So if you are one of those people who can deal with such matters, ready to deal with them, it will be a good idea to sort out what is it that you want to leave. On an up note, you can start a hobby. It is so important that you start a hobby because it keeps your brain ticking. If you don't use your brain, literally it shrinks, and then things will be downhill. So any interest, any hobby, however small or big, you can really start now. There's a lot of new things that you can learn from home. I mean, apart from reading, for me, reading isn't really a hobby. It's kind of like a must. But I mean a hobby that engages the hand, maybe something artistic, doing those scrapbooks, whatever it is, for men and women. It makes you a more interesting person when you have other interests, so that when your children and grandchildren come to visit, you have something exciting and interesting to talk to them about and to share, which will make the visit much more interesting. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you will join me again on, what are we today? Monday, on Wednesday. Next Monday, a week from today, I'm going to have a very special guest, Coach Taimur, who specializes in executive coaching, but more importantly, on dealing with men and men issues. And I think it's high time that we hear about the other side. I keep hearing things about feminine power and but I think we must not ignore men. They are 50% of society. I certainly love all the men in my life. I love my father, my brother, my husband, my cousins. So many men have influenced my life. And it's very easy to always blame the husband for whatever it is. But once in a while, you need to take yourself and put yourself in their shoes and kind of see it from the other side. And you'll find it very interesting because he will tell you a lot of things that most of us are not aware of as to what is going on with men. Right, I'm going to turn on the commenting. I'm just going to check on Instagram, obviously, not on the other platforms. And I'm going to check if anybody left any messages or anything. No questions. Okay, so you're sorted. Thank you for following and for leaving a comment. I really appreciate it because it really helps me, because it does help me to keep going, and it does give me ideas as to what to talk about. Whatever you do in life, don't get unstuck. I've shared my Unbox Homestay course. I've shared, I think, 5 or 6 of the 15 modules for free. So you can check it on YouTube. It'll give you ideas of what you can do now to unbox your life. You've also got many resources. There's my magazine, my articles, and so many coffee breaks in the past 2 months, and so many subject matters. And I hope that all of that will help you unbox something. And remember, you will have a free one-to-one session with me, a complimentary session with me. So if you really feel you need some help, fill the online assessment form. Make sure you DM me for your appointment. And I promise you to unbox one issue that you were not aware of in that session, in that complimentary discovery session. So let's together help each other start a new life, a new phase of our lives, and continue to enjoy it. After all, this is what it is about. Stay well, take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday.